Hey, what's going on, guys? Henry Kaminsky here from the Passionpreneur Inner Circle with episode number 16 of the Passionpreneur Live video podcast. I have a very special guest today, my main man, Ben Settle. He is an email marketing genius. I am part of his email subscribers, email players subscription, and it's been helping me tremendously with my email marketing. As you guys know, a lot of you guys are on my list, and you see the daily emails that I put out. Well, I got the man that has inspired me and has been helping me since December really craft these awesome messages that are turning into tremendous amounts of revenue for me. And I asked him if he could be part of the show, and he gladly accepted. So I got the man of the hour, or half an hour, I should say, with me today. What's up, Ben?
Oh, man, I appreciate you having me on here. It was good meeting you over in New York, and I don't know, I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome. So real quick, you are a very prolific man. Like you really stand for what it is that, and you stand for something, and you back it up, and you actually walk the talk. And I want people to understand that there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of talking, but then their actions are completely something different. And let's talk about this for a second. You have this concept of principles over tactics. Everybody's looking for the tactic. I mean, if I had $1 for every email that was sent to me, hey, tell me how to increase my following on Instagram, like I would be rich. So talk to me a little bit about principles versus tactics.
Okay, so this is we'll say suddenly, it's starting to become like people are starting to teach this when they don't even know what they're doing. I'm the first to admit I'm a student of this way of thinking myself. I've been for about 10 years now, and I learned it originally from this guy named Jim Camp, who died a couple years ago, but he was known as the world's most feared negotiator. And that's his whole philosophy was, getting there's actually a lot of stuff he taught, but one of them is principles override tactics. So now he was a pilot in Vietnam, and this is what he was taught, that when you're flying jet planes, fighter planes and all that, a principle or rule overrules a tactic. It's more important to have those principles. Now, tactics are not bad in and of themselves, but if they're not used in the context of within a principle, you're dead in the water. I'll give you an email example. Okay, so I don't know how much your audience uses email or not, but about sometime last year, I got this question on Facebook. This person's like, okay, I have to write this series of 5 emails to sell this person's product. Should I make the first email, a scarcity email, and the second one build desire, and the next one something that scares them? Very tactical. And I'm like, no. I'm like, none of that matters. If you knew your market, you wouldn't have to ask these questions, because it's not about the tactics. Why don't you look at your market and say, okay, what are their problems? What are their fears? What are the things they want? What are the things that bother them? What are the things that keep them up at night? Basic market research. And now how does that fit in with your product? Which that's a principle versus, oh, I'm just going to throw this scarcity email out there. I'm not saying to not use scarcity, but I'm saying it's got to make sense. It's got to be natural. And that would be an example. That guy is just going to spin his wheels constantly. But if he just understood his market, he would know what to say. He wouldn't have to worry about all that stuff.
Yeah. So it's spending time really getting to know who you want to serve. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a big preacher of that as well. I mean, when you understand that specific person, it's a hell of a lot easier to talk to him.
It is, and I'll tell you the example and in fact, I wrote about this in Email Players, so you probably actually read all what I'm saying here. It was the El Bembo versus the tactics guy. It was a January issue, and
I love it.
So once in a while I'll sell something as an affiliate. Okay, I don't do that very often, but I do for this one of this guy I know. His name is Danny Iny, or Danny Iny. Danny Iny. I'm terrible at names. It's nothing against him. I think the guy's great. I respect the crap out of him. He's one of the few people I sell stuff as an affiliate. So last summer I was selling his product on how to build your own online course. And this is how I approached my list. I sat there and I said, okay, I have multi-level marketers on my list. I have copywriters on my list. I have just regular brick and mortar business owners on my list. I have affiliate marketers on my list. So I said, okay, what do these people all need and want, and how can this give it to them? And that is how I approached the emails. I didn't say I need to use scarcity in this email. I need to, antagonize in this. I didn't do any of that stuff. I built it around them and their problems and things they want. And they told me it was one of the most successful affiliates they had for that. So, that's no accident. It's not because I'm like this genius. It's just I look at principles over tactics.
That's it. I mean, it's super, super important to understand that. And again, I don't have the exact knowledge. I don't have as much knowledge as you do in this concept. And that's why I really wanted to spend some time with you today and talking about it, because again, it's like you mentioned this in your emails too. Like, I don't want to be that regurgitator, where you're just like everything that Russell Brunson teaches me. Like, I don't want to go on a Facebook Live and just read, you know what I mean? Like, that's
yeah.
What's that doing for me? Nothing. Like, you got to put your own spin on it. You got to give examples. I mean, I consider you a great storyteller, and as I read your emails, it takes me through as a little story, really, right? Every single one of your emails is like that, and that's what makes them so intriguing, and that's why I have the Ben Settle folder on my Gmails, because they all go in there. If I don't have a chance to read them immediately, they go in there and I reread. I go back, and so like can we talk about some like storytelling principles that a lot of these entrepreneurs are overlooking?
Yeah, people way overcomplicate storytelling. Like, I've seen there's entire seminars based on now, we've learned to tell stories when we were kids, right? When we were growing up, we heard, for example, the nativity story for Christmas. Like, it doesn't matter what religion you are, everybody knows the nativity story. It's just a story that was told, it's been passed down, and that's why it's simple. There's this guy named Paul Hartunian. You'd like him. He's from Jersey. Lives in New Jersey. He's the publicity guy. Like, he teaches people how to get publicity. And he's like, and it's in a press release, you have a very limited space to tell like your story, right? You have like one page, everything's double spaced. I mean, it's really tight writing. And he goes, you can tell your entire story in 2 sentences. He goes, I can tell the entire story of the American Revolution in 2 sentences. We fought the British, we won. But that's how simple a story can be. So people they complicate it like way beyond. So for storytelling, people should just tell a story. It's like as if they were talking to someone next to them. I mean, and we'll talk about principles versus tactics here if you want. The principle of storytelling overrides like all these tactics people throw at people in copywriting and emails and all that, right? Like, oh, I'm going to throw this NLP at them and all this, when you could just tell a story. Now, here's the interesting thing about stories. And stories, entire religions have been built on stories. Christianity was built on stories, parables, right? Mm-hmm. Stories. The movie Top Gun, to take this to a more like, another side. Top Gun, okay? Everybody's seen Top Gun, right? 1986, Tom Cruise. So nowhere, when that movie came out, the recruitment levels for the Navy and Air Force were so high that the military put recruiting booths in the theaters it was playing, because people are coming out wanting to join. Now, nowhere in the movie do they ever pitch, you should join, be all you can be, join this. They don't even have like any mention of it at all, like even in the credits, nothing. And yet recruitment went through the roof. And even the sunglasses that Tom Cruise wore in that movie, which nobody knew what they were, but somebody figured out, they went up 30%, sales went up 30% because of a story. It's like the principle of storytelling overrides all this nonsense. I'm not saying don't do other things, but I'm just saying, like, if you just hone in on that, tell a story. Everybody can tell a story. It's
it. I mean, I could give you a quick example. Like, I talked about in one of the emails that were inspired by you, I talked about this guy, Bobby, who had this horrific brand, and like his brand identity, his design, like his website looked like shit, and like everything was terrible, but Bobby didn't see it because Bobby built it with his own. Bobby built his website by himself and thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then somebody came along and said, hey, guess what, Bobby, your website sucks. and it was a quick wake up call for Bobby and to say, oh crap, I got an epidemic on my hand. I thought this website was awesome. So I went through this whole story about how Bobby then realized how quickly brand identity was important to his business and hired Henry for a quick brand audit. And we got Bobby on the right track. And
that's a great story, man. That's a perfect example of how to do it. It's very simple.
And listen, it's you teaching this to me. I mean, I want to give you props where props is due. I mean, it's just following. It's like I'm modeling you, but then I'm going 4 levels deeper, and I'm asking, why does he do it that way, right?
Yeah.
And I do the same thing with Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm a big fan of his, but I want to be known as Henry. I don't want to be known as the up and coming Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't want to be like, this guy sounds and looks too much like Gary. I want him to be, okay, he's inspired by Gary, cool, but he's got his own voice.
Oh, absolutely. And we talked about that at the Cops event. Your personality, you don't need to change it for anybody. That, you just be you, but ratchet it up a couple notches of exaggeration, and you're game over, man.
I forgot about that part. When you were talking about ratchet up. So here's one thing from that event that, and I want to go into this a little bit because this will really resonate with my audience. You had another email that you inspired me by, brought in a $1,793 sale.
Nice. Do tell.
Boom. Anyway, it's insane. So anyway, let me get focused. That's like me with the entrepreneurial ADD, right? But here's one thing that you mentioned at the event. After you looked at the Passionpreneur, at the time it was called Movement, and you were like, nobody pays to be in movement. So again, that real sound advice. You're not trying to hurt my feelings. You're just saying, dude.
Oh no.
But here's the one thing that you said that stuck with me forever. You said, dude, you're playing it safe. You're playing it way too safe.
Playing to not lose instead of playing to win.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, this is 95 or 99% of people in business, out of business, whatever. People are so afraid of, there's this, you ever see that movie Navy SEALs? Charlie Sheen, you know that?
Yeah.
And he's like, he goes, if you're going to put it out there, don't be afraid to get it cut off. But isn't that okay, so I'll take this from an email since we're talking email and stuff. So a lot of people worry about their opt-outs. Oh, I've got all these people opting out. That's the wrong thing to worry about. That's playing to not lose. Writing emails so you don't get people to opt out instead of writing emails that'll get sales, you're playing to not lose instead of playing to win. You cannot win if you're just playing to not lose. If you're like in chess, if you're trying to go for a stalemate, you're not going to win. Sometimes you can go for a stalemate, I guess, but in business, why would you want to? It's why not win? And I'll give you an example. So I once sent 18 emails out over a weekend to my list. 18. I was selling this $2,000 product, and it was a hard thing to sell to my list because for reasons I won't go into here, but it's not a product they would normally buy. I ended up being the #1 affiliate for that thing and making, I don't know, I think we did $40,000 in sales or something. And I did 18 emails. Now I was not, and I got 300 opt-outs. Now, what's more important, the 300 opt-outs or the $40,000 in sales? I'll lose 500. I don't care. It's I'm playing to win, not to lose. So not to not lose, I should say.
That's awesome. That is the perfect story. I mean, it's a perfect example. And so you said to me, dude, you're playing it safe, man. Just put yourself out there. And that was so inspiring because I really felt like when I walked out of that event, but between you and Dan and freaking Crazy Ryan, I walked out of there like a car could have smashed me and the car would have been in worse shape than I was.
I love that. Yeah.
That's how I felt, honest to God, because you empowered me, you inspired me. You were like, dude, just play to fucking win. Excuse my language. Just play to win, dude. And it's funny, one of my coaches, Russell, even said it recently. He was like, dude, you're playing it too safe. And so now that I'm going out there and I guess I'm getting aggressive.
Yeah.
I'm getting aggressive. On my personal Facebook page, I'm leaving links for people to buy stuff. And know what's crazy? That's how this sale just happened.
Nice. Right. Well, if you don't ask, you're not going to get the sale. So you might as well ask for the sale. And the way to look at it, for anyone listening to this who's like they're having a hard time grasping this, just some advice, okay? If you have a product or service, whatever you sell, that is genuinely going to benefit your customer, and it's going to help them. And I'm going to assume everyone listening to this is in that boat. I'm not going to assume anyone. I'm going to assume nobody's like some sociopath who wants to hurt people, right? We're all trying to help our audiences out. If you really care about them, it is your moral and ethical duty to at least let them know your product exists every day. And to not be like these mush cookies out there on social media who are afraid to sell. Oh, I don't look like I'm selling anything. Screw that. Yes, I have something to sell. There are people who purposely don't sell. They'll send an email out. They'll call it a goodwill email, right? Well, I just want to make it look like and you know how terrible that is? Here's the analogy I use for that. Imagine you, Henry, have a terrifyingly painful urinary tract infection. It's pissing razor blades, dude. It hurts. You're just in agony. You go to the doctor. He writes you a prescription for something that'll help with this. You go to the pharmacy, and they look at your prescription and say, well, look, this is a goodwill day today. We're not going to sell you anything, okay? We're just going to we'll tell you about the problem if you want to know more about it, but we cannot sell you. We don't want to look like salesmen. That's the mentality, right? So sell. I mean, do it in a way that people want to be sold. I'm not saying to just blatantly pitch them, but learn how to persuade and like you're learning how to do. And you gave a perfect example of it, that email you wrote. So anyway, that to me, it's the people got to get over this fear of selling. You have to. If you don't sell them what you have, your inferior competition is going to sell them instead. And now you've done them a double disservice.
Boom. That's powerful. That's powerful. And dude, you said it in you said it in your book, the book that I got when I first subscribed to your thing. You said, dude, we're in business to make money. We're in business to sell things. Just be freaking up front with them and be like, dude, if you're on my list, you're gonna get something from me that's going to ask you to buy something every day. If you don't like that, leave.
And that's exactly what I say. And then you give them a good every email should not waste their time. It should be interesting. It should talk about them in some way. If you do it right, you're not you save all my emails. I'm not an imposition on your life, right? I'm what Dan Kennedy would call a welcome guest. When you make yourself a welcome guest, you're fine. People want, believe me. Okay, so remember when I launched my villains book? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So the day before I launched it, because I knew I was going to send a lot of emails out. Okay. So the day before I said, look, I'm prepping you for this weekend. This is on our Wednesdays. I launched it Thursday through Sunday. I said I didn't sell anything on that. I might have sold something. I don't remember. But the purpose of that email was look, brace yourself. You're going to get a lot of emails over the next few days. Just to let you know, now would be the time to unsubscribe if that's a problem, whatever. The next day, after the first email went out, I got people complaining that I hadn't sent enough emails yet. They were mad at me because I hadn't already sent 4 for the day already. I'm like, are people nuts? It's I just sent the first one. Believe me, there's more coming, but they were and it's not because it's such a great writer. It's because if you know how to talk to your list, and which I taught you how to do, I doubt you get very many people saying, I hate you. They probably love your stuff, and if you get some haters, good. You can take their email and reuse it and quote them in the next email and make fun of them. It's fun.
Well, and I do that all the time. Oh my, dude, I do that. The guy wanted basically $1 million brand in 2 months, and he only wanted to spend $1,600. Well,
typical.
We hosed I didn't hose him on purpose. I just made an example out of him.
Absolutely.
And when I went on Instagram and showed people the website, and I said, would you buy from this website? And I got 87 comments that said, no, I wouldn't put my credit card 10 feet from him. It's just a point. It's just a point. So, people are afraid to do that because they don't want to hurt that person's feelings, right? So I think I use that as content for one email. And then I used another subscriber as an example too. She got an email. It touched her in a way. She came back and she was like, I hired these flakes out by me, and they gave me nothing. And look at my website. It's a complete mess now. I'm spending way too much time in ClickFunnels. I need help.
Oh,
So
dude, that's a great story too, actually, to
so
tell.
the
I
next
mean,
day, so the next day, I write a story about Heather and how she. The good news, instead of trashing her website because it looked like hell, I said, here's what Heather did right. She realized she had a problem. And I went through the three things that she was able to be aware of, self-aware of. And I said, she's going to become a Branding on Demand client as soon as she gets back from vacation because she knows that this is unacceptable and she's done hemorrhaging money. And that's the way I used it in a what you call it, in a positive way.
and it's a great way of doing it. You're talking about the problems that they have or they could have. And
Yes.
you're doing them a service by making them. So let's go back to Jim Camp for a second here, because I just learned so much from him, not just principles versus tactics.
Please.
But one of the things he teaches is that nobody can make a decision logically. Like all decisions are made emotionally. In fact, people who claim to be so rational, I make all my decisions rationally. The decision to make a rational decision is an emotional thing. It's like the decision to be rational is actually emotional. So the point is this. You have to give them a vision of the problem or whatever it is you have to give them the vision before you can like pitch them. Yeah. And by doing what you did, you gave them a vision. All the readers got a vision of a problem. Now they're receptive to hearing the solution, but most people do it the opposite. They come up with the solution and they may never even talk about the problem or anything. And so that kind of email is a really good way to do it. It's not how to, like, it's not something they're going to like, but that's nobody uses the how-to stuff in emails. It's like the worst way to email people is just give them hard information. Give them a vision. To connect with them emotionally, and you will win. You don't know, like one of the highest selling emails I ever wrote. This was for a launch. This is for the MLM niche. It was selling a product to MLM people. It showed them how to become a worldwide expert in just 3 minutes a day. Because if you can do that, you can sell your MLM a lot better. So it was an informational product. It was a great product. My friend Ray Higdon made it. It's a great product. One of the emails I wrote barely even talked about the product, and yet this got the most sales and the most clicks and everything. I told the story about a guy who was a stay-at-home dad whose wife was working in the corporate world, and she was becoming more and more attracted to her boss and less attracted to him. And then basically she ended up leaving him for her boss. And I can tell you, every stay-at-home dad or anyone who just didn't want to be in that position, they read this email word for word. Because it was based on a real story. This happens all the time. I mean, it's like I sell in the dating niche too. That's why I know this stuff. And I mean, it was 800 words long, and I think maybe 50 of the words talked about the product. It didn't matter. I built this monster. So Gene Schwartz, the great copywriter, he died back in like the mid 90s. He said in his book Breakthrough Advertising, which is like one of the best copywriting. It was once known as the most stolen book from libraries because it was like $900 on eBay and all this. Now you can buy it for like $125 from this guy named Brian Kurtz. But in the introduction to this book, he says something that everybody should remember, because this is where it all comes down to. He said, it's not about building better mousetraps, i.e. better products. You should have good products, don't get me wrong, but it's not about that. It's about building bigger mice and putting terrifying fear of those mice into your customers. Because if you're scared of that mouse, they're looking for a mousetrap, and you just happen to be there to have it. They're buying from you because you're the one that brought that vision to them. So it's all about vision.
Boom. 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 I mean, that's super powerful, man. I mean, I don't know how else to. Let's just end the episode right now. No, I mean that is. I think everybody is so fired up to build the bigger mousetrap, and this is the one point that I wanted to make. Is one of my followers or whatever, he reached out to me recently, and he was talking about how he's not making any money because he's freeing himself to death. He's going out there and he's basically just giving away all of his superpowers, and he's freeing himself to death. And I said, yeah, my buddy Ben Settle taught me that back in December, that we're not a charity, and we're here to make, we're here to do business. And when you gate that content, you create the vision and say, hey, this is the vision. Here's the solution behind the pearly white gate. Like, that's what we're in business for. And it's not manipulative. You're telling them up front, like, listen, I have a solution, but I'm not going to give it to you for free.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite of manipulative. It's completely transparent, and it just confuses the hell out of people who don't understand this because they don't. How is that working? Well, because people want to be treated like they're human beings. They want to be treated like they're a mark.
You know who Sean Whalen is? Sean Whalen on Facebook.
I don't know him personally, but one of my friends is having a feud with him right now. So
okay, so he's a very prolific man. I had him on the show a couple weeks ago. I mean, I like what he stands for. I truly believe it. But he said on the episode, he said, the world is starving for the truth, and that's all we need to do is just give it to them. And in your personal life, in your business, whatever. And I'm like, when he said that, it rattled my cage because I said, that's what everybody that's succeeding and that's the people that are winning, that's what they're doing. They're just being super transparent. I mean, look at freaking Russell Brunson. I mean, he's the most transparent man you're ever gonna see in this world, like in this digital marketing world.
Yeah.
And it's just keeping it real with people. And I'm telling you, when I started switching gears, and I like back in the day, and I told you guys this story, like I was a really big douche. Like my intentions were upside down, and I was just a super douche, And when I got my mind right, and I started, like you said, really caring about my clients and not looking at them as a transaction, like the whole game changed for me. And you touched upon that before. Like you should have, if you're in business, you should have a moral and ethical obligation to serve them and to really help them get the result that they're looking for. And if there's anything else that you're trying to do, you better check yourself. You better, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
Well, and going back to this giving stuff away free thing, if the principle is I want to help these people, right? Not like I genuinely want to help them. Well, you give stuff away free, they're never going to value it, and they're never going to, like, maybe 1 out of 1,000 people, most people won't. They're going to use the thing that they paid for because they have an emotional investment in it and a financial investment in it. Okay. If it's free, they may or may not use it. I'm not saying that never to do free, but I'm just saying, like, you're better off selling it to them. People want to be sold. They want to buy, I should say. They do want to buy. They just don't want to feel like an idiot doing it. They want to be treated like people.
Perry Belcher talks about like status, right?
Yeah.
And he talks about how like and Russell talks about this in his new book. People buy to either increase their status or to avoid decreasing their status, right? But that's the biggest thing. It's like, is this going to decrease my status or increase it? And
this is an interesting thought because I think it goes much deeper than that. I know what they're saying. Mm-hmm. That's like the fifth. Well, this issue of March Email Players I talked about, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
That would probably be on the very last how the hierarchy. So depending on who you're selling to and the people they sell to, I would totally agree actually. But depending on what you sell, they may just be trying to survive. So it helps to know, like, if anyone's listening to this, it's way too much to go into here, but look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, figure out where your customers fit on that. Like, where are they at? Are they looking for status? Sell them status. Are they looking for survival? Sell them survival. But that's a whole other thing. I probably shouldn't even like open that box of worms there, but it does give you something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, we're coming up on 30 minutes, and I want to wrap this up. At the end of the day, Ben, like, what are three key points that my audience can take away with in regards to email marketing? I mean, that's your expertise. Okay. What are some 3 key points that they can walk away with today?
Okay, well, one thing to think about is consistency trumps proficiency. You don't have to be good at this, okay? You don't have to be a great writer at all. In fact, the best copywriters I ever met suck at writing. You just got to be a good communicator. And if you're doing it every day, once a day, I'll tell a quick story about Jerry Seinfeld that I kind of like telling people about this because it serves the point. So Jerry Seinfeld was one of the highest paid comedians who ever lived, especially during the days of Seinfeld. He was doing like $400 million a year or whatever. And somebody had asked him, I don't know if it was Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur magazine, one of these magazines asked him, okay, so how'd you get started? He goes, well, what I did is I had this big wall calendar, and every day I made a commitment. I'm going to write 1 joke per day. And I don't care if it's a good joke. It doesn't have to, it could be a bad joke. It could suck. It could be good. It doesn't matter. The goal was 1 joke a day consistently. He wrote it, and he would X that out on the calendar. Next day, he'd write a joke. Rain, shine, doesn't matter. He would write a joke and X that day out. As long as he had a chain of X's going through the calendar, he knew he was going in the forward direction, and he couldn't lose. And I would say the email is the exact same way. You just got to start doing it. Another thing to think about is people don't necessarily want to be educated in emails. Okay, they far more want to be entertained. We live in the age of the celebrity. People are looking for entertainment. What you have to do is learn to merge the two into what's called infotainment, where you merge information and entertainment. So that's a huge one. And third, just write like you talk. Don't edit yourself. Don't censor yourself. Write the first draft as if you're having a conversation with whoever. Then edit through, maybe take out some of the 4-letter words and all that if you want. But write raw. Be you. Don't try to be a warmed over version of someone else's leftovers. Just be you. And I'm telling you do those 3 things, you're gonna be great.
Listen, those are awesome tips. I've been implementing and executing every single one of them. And again, you didn't set me up to say this. It works. It really does work. And it inspired me to have you on the show. It's inspired me to continue. I mean, I write literally, so I have segmented lists. So I write 3 different emails a day, and I've been doing it since December. So talk about like flexing the email
Absolutely.
marketing.
That's how you get good at it. That's exactly how, and fast. You're going to get better and faster as you go.
That's it. So anyway, Ben, pleasure having you. Thank you for taking the time today to talk to my audience, to talk to me, and love what you're doing, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, man. It's been fun. I appreciate it.